First question I wanted to ask you, of course, because you guys are, again, about to go on the air on the Yankees hot stove. Obviously, the Gerrit Cole news. Steven Strasburg just signs that record-breaking deal, $245 million, 100% ups the ante for Gerrit Cole. What do you think the mindset right now is for Brian Cashman from your perspective going into this? Obviously, the $300 million mark has been thrown around, but do you think he's going to try and stay under that, maybe like $275, $280? What's exactly your perspective going into this?
It's a great question, Jack, and we're all following this. And we all throw numbers out, and we want to try and figure out through the tea leaves what is going to happen. First and foremost, I was surprised that Strasburg got $245 million. I did not think he was going to get that rich a contract. And you said it well. Now that Strasburg got that, Cole is better. He's 2 years younger, and the same man is representing him as Scott Boras, and he is absolutely going to shoot for a higher number, and he'll get it. Do we know what that's going to be? Is it 8 for 280? Is it 8 for 300? Is it 9? Does he say, because Cole is 2 years younger, he should get a 9-year deal because then he'll be pitching at the same 38 that Strasburg will be when his contract ends? I think from a Yankee perspective, they always have a number in mind. I don't know exactly what that number is, but what I have been told is their plan, and they've already done this, was to make a very, very competitive offer.
And do you feel like the Angels and the Dodgers are also in on him? Obviously, the Angels are one of the more serious contenders. The Dodgers have kind of said to be lurkers, like in the shadows. Do you feel like that offer is coming soon? Because Scott Boras even said to the media earlier he plans on walking out of San Diego this week with a contract in hand.
I think it has to be, because those were the parameters that Boras set. He wanted to get those offers this week. There was an interesting scene in the lobby about an hour ago where Boras spoke to the media, and I was part of the throng that was around him, probably about 100 reporters around him. And the only team he really mentioned was the Yankees. He said the Yankees and other teams have made very thorough presentations to Cole. I agree with you. I think it's right now Yankees versus Angels. I think the Dodgers are on the periphery. That could change. The Dodgers could swoop in and make an offer of X, and that could end up being something that Cole decides to take. But I think the Yankees are very big players in this. They've targeted him as their number one off-season priority, and I think that they're going to try and figure out a way to make that happen.
And obviously he's the big fish that they're going after right now, but are they keeping close tabs on guys like Brett Gardner, who's seeking a multi-year deal, and of course Austin Romine, who I would consider is one of the best backup catchers in baseball right now?
Well, the two players you just mentioned, I've spoken to both of their agents here, and as far as Gardner goes, I would be very surprised if there's not a reunion between the Yankees and Gardner. It's the only team he's ever played for. He has value because he's an elite defender in left field and center field. He had a career-high 28 home runs last season. He's changed his swing to elevate the ball more, and he's a leader in that clubhouse. So I absolutely think the Yankees are keeping tabs on him. There have been conversations. They just haven't come to a deal yet. As far as Romine goes, I agree with you. I think the Yankees should value Romine, and I think having a backup catcher who can fill in for Sanchez is of vital importance. But I think the Yankees really like Higashioka, and the vibe that I'm getting is that Romine will not be returning to the Yankees.
That's disappointing for me. Yankee fan, love Austin Romine. He's one of the few backup catchers in baseball. I feel like when you plug him into the lineup, you have a positive mindset going into it.
Yeah, and I talked to Romine at the end of last season about his future, and he absolutely said that New York is a place he would like to stay. But again, you get into the offseason, and Higashioka is a guy who's out of options, so perhaps the Yankees see him as that backup catcher who can slide in. And there's a lot to like about Higashioka, but I think Romine's someone who's done it and has done it well for the last 2 years. I mean, you look at his numbers for the last 2 years, played about 150 games, an OPS of around 730. That's pretty good for a backup catcher.
And last question before I let you go. I know you got to go on the air pretty soon here. Derek Jeter, obviously, first year on the ballot this year. No question, first ballot Hall of Famer. In your estimation, Mariano Rivera, first unanimous Hall of Famer. Is Derek Jeter a unanimous Hall of Famer? And if not, what's going to be the argument made against him for some of the writers?
Yeah, the thing is, I have a Hall of Fame vote, and he will absolutely get my vote. To try and dig inside the mind of someone who wouldn't vote for Derek Jeter, it's kind of laughable to me. If someone found a flaw or decided there was some reason that they weren't going to vote for Jeter. For some reason, I don't think Jeter is going to be unanimous. I think that there will be a voter or more than one voter who maybe talks about his defense and finds a way to take a shot at a career that is absolutely a first ballot Hall of Fame career. Almost 3,500 hits, the postseason records, all that he was able to do. So I love that Mariano finally broke through that and got unanimous selection, because I don't think it should have ever taken this long. I just have a suspicion that there will be at least one voter who doesn't vote for Jeter, and shame on that voter if it happens.
And do you think, playing in New York, obviously under the bright lights, nobody handled New York better than Derek Jeter? Like, if he were to play for the Padres or the Twins, like, I don't think, obviously, wouldn't be a first ballot Hall of Famer, wouldn't have gotten the same recognition that he did in New York.
I think Jeter would have been a Hall of Famer wherever he played.
Right.
He might not have gotten the same hype and the same recognition because New York brings that, but I think Derek Jeter, wherever he played, would have had the same type of career. He had a lot of complementary pieces around him, some great players in that lineup, and that obviously is always going to help a player, but I would never say that just because he landed in New York that made him a Hall of Famer. I think that contributed to who he became as a player, but I think he would have been a Hall of Famer in any city.
And one last question I just thought of right now. Just bought the book, Full Count, with David Cone and yourself. Is it more of, obviously, from life beginning to childhood to end of his career, David Cone, but is also more of like the analytics side when it comes to pitching compared to yesterday's game, or compared from yesterday's game to today's game?
When we started working on this book, David and I, it was going to be a pitching journey, and a lot of pitching stories and a lot of pitching theories in there. You start doing the interviews, and I think we sat down 42 times. I think we had 42 or 43 interviews. It became a pitching journey and a personal journey. So there are a lot of stories about his childhood and his father being his best pitching coach. And there's stories about his teammates, some that we just mentioned. Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Dwight Gooden, and Darryl Strawberry. There are tales about all of those guys in there. As far as analytics, and that's obviously a hot topic, and David loves talking analytics, we touch upon it in the book, but I'm not going to lie to you. It's not an analytically driven book.
Oh, yeah.
There's not 50 pages on analytics. We talk about his career, and I think anybody who loves pitching and just loves a great baseball story will be very interested in reading what David had to say. I have never met a pitcher who spoke more eloquently and smartly about the craft than David Cone.
I think he's definitely one of the more equipped players-formed analysts out there.
I agree with you.
Not that they're all great.
I'm biased. He's my teammate, but I love listening to Coney during a game. And what he does during a game, too, is he doesn't just talk about what happened. He talks about what might happen before it happens as a pitcher. And I think that's very impressive to be able to do that.
I just